Not sure how to deal with change? Well, I'm going to show you how, coming up next. Welcome everyone to another episode of Leadership Roll Call, where we give you the tips to be a more effective leader. I'm your host, Michael Finley. So managers keep the process going. They keep the status quo. They make sure the line is humming along. They make sure that no problems occur. Leaders, on the other hand, look to better a process. They look for ideas of how to make things better. They don't result on the status quo. They don't keep that status quo. They look for better ways to do this. And that includes taking risk. Now, when you change the process or you change the status quo, that means change. And that's our topic today, change management. A study by the Harvard Business Review showed that change initiatives fail up to 70% of the time. Wow, that is a lot of failure. And so how do we combat that? So why the 70% failure rate? Why is that? Why does change fail? Well, there's usually general 5 reasons why it fails. Number one, the employees don't understand it. They're not motivated to get on board. They don't understand it. They don't understand why it's going on. Number 4 is that your management's not on board. Now, this is usually your vice presidents or your directors or whatever that, the CEO says we're going to do this and they're just not on board. So that's number 4. Number 3 is that your top team is not engaged, and this includes your CEO or your chief or whatever it is. Your top team's not engaged. This could be a change introduced by a mid-level employee, and the top brass is not involved in this change, and so that's another reason it fails. Number 2 is that the CEO and the top brass introduce this change, and they have a big celebration like, hey, we're going to introduce this change, and everybody has a wait-and-see approach. And they wait for people to lose interest and wait for it to go away. That's usually number 2. And the number 1 reason for change failure is change fatigue. There is so much change going on that it loses itself, it loses it in the clutter, and they just are tired of change. That's usually the number 1 reason for change fatigue. So how do we effectively implement change? Well, back in 1995, a Harvard business professor named John Kotter wrote a book called Leading Change. Now, book was written over 20 years ago, but the principles he talks about are still relevant today. And it's considered the Bible of change management, and he's considered the world-renowned change expert. So we're going to talk about his 8 steps of how to affect change. So step number 1, you want to increase a sense of urgency. You want to instruct people or inform people what happens if they don't change, or the opportunities they have if change exists. So you want to increase this sense of urgency. You want to tell them why they're changing. Step number 2 is you want to create a powerful coalition. Look, if you want to go after change by yourself, knock yourself out. But chances are that your change initiative is going to fail. By creating a powerful coalition, it greatly increases the odds of this change taking place. So we're talking about people in different departments and at different levels of your organization. So create that powerful coalition. Step number 3 is you want to create a vision for the change. Let people know why you're changing and help them remember it. So have a strong message of why you're changing. So create that vision. Step number 4 is you want to communicate that vision. Communicate. Your change that you're trying to implement tends to get lost in the clutter of everything else going on with new products or revised products or whatever. So you've got to strongly communicate the reason for this change and your vision for the change. Step 5, you want to remove all obstacles. Now this includes processes, systems, or people. Now, I'm not suggesting that you remove people, but you want to identify them and address their concerns. So you want to identify all obstacles that will prevent this change from occurring, and you want to remove them or address them as soon as you can. Step number 6, you want to create short-term wins. Now, if your change is not going to take place for 6 months, people will lose interest and they'll kind of forget about it. Even as much as you communicate, they'll kind of forget about it. So what you want to do is you want to plan for and create opportunities for short-term wins along the way. So 2 weeks in, 1 month in, 2 months in, you want to have these short-term wins that will knock out the negative naysayers that are going on and create some momentum of what's going on. So create short-term wins. Number 7 is you want to build on this change. Don't slack off. People tend to, when the change occurs, they're like, okay, next project. Well, when you do that, change falters and people go back doing the same thing. So you don't slack off. This momentum that you're building up, you got to keep it going. So once change occurs, you got to keep it going. Keep reviewing progress, keep reviewing opportunities, keep reviewing success, why you had success, and build on that. Lastly, you want to anchor this change in your corporate culture. Now, the only way you're going to do that is if people do it over and over and over. So when you anchor this change in your corporate culture, this is when your new hires come in. You let them know what's going on. Any onboarding of new supervisors, you want to let them know what's going on. You want to make it part of the culture. So anchor the change in your corporate culture. So those are the 8 steps of John Kotter's leading change model. I hope you enjoyed this. Now, this doesn't address everything involved in change management, and I suggest that you read his book because it's really, really good, and I'll put a link to it in the comments below. But it really goes into detail of the steps you need to do to implement change. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have a comment about this or any other topic you'd like to see, please put it below. And until next time, good luck with change.